Tonight, a vital expressway in and out of Toronto is about to lose a couple of lanes for significant construction work.
I don't want to fall off the Gardiner because it's falling apart, but also that sounds like a nightmare.
The multi-lane closure will be measured in years. Reaction from drivers and an urban planning expert straight ahead.
They've gained absolutely nothing in this process.
Plus, claiming victory, Ontario's top court rules against the Ford government over a law restricting wage increases for some workers. Late tonight, new comment from the province on whether it'll continue its legal battle.
It's more important now more than ever for the Drake to support artists.
And a Toronto institution celebrates a milestone. The Drake Hotel's plans to give back to the artists who helped make the space so special. Good evening, I'm Chris Glover. Thanks for joining us. We'll get to those stories in a moment, but first we begin with large-scale protests happening downtown tonight. Hundreds of people demonstrating outside the Israeli consulate in response to recent Israeli airstrikes near the Rafah border crossing. More than 60 Palestinians, including children, were reportedly killed after intense airstrikes and shelling early Monday morning in Rafah. The Israeli military confirmed it conducted a series of strikes on what it said were targets in Gaza. They also say 2 Israeli hostages were rescued. In our city, those protesting tonight are calling for a permanent ceasefire in the conflict and want the Canadian government to stop selling weapons to Israel. Also tonight, one man is fighting for his life and another is in custody after a stabbing in Etobicoke. This happened near Dundas and Maple Avenue, west of Islington. Police say they responded to a stabbing just after 7:30 tonight. The victim was taken to hospital with serious, life-threatening injuries. Police say a man was arrested and officers recovered a knife. CBC Toronto has confirmed a major roadblock is coming to the way that people get around this city. Starting as early as next month, 2 lanes will be closed on a decent stretch of the Gardiner Expressway. And as Lane Harrison reports, the closures will remain in place for a couple of years.
The Gardiner Expressway is an ever-important and often frustrating part of driving in and out of Toronto. And starting as early as March, using it is going to get more difficult. The city confirmed to CBC Toronto Monday that a significant part of the Gardiner will soon see big changes. Part of the expressway from Dufferin to Strawn will go from 3 lanes of traffic on either side to 2. And while it's a temporary measure, it may not feel that way to drivers, because the lane closure will be happening for about 3 years, until 2027. Maddie Semiatiki, an urban planning expert, says the news may be hard to swallow.
This is an aging piece of infrastructure that is decaying before our eyes, and if we don't maintain it, it's going to go into a worse state of repair, and it will require even more significant intervention.
Some drivers who use the key piece of infrastructure agree.
I mean, I don't know. I don't want to fall off the Gardiner because it's falling apart, but also that sounds like a nightmare.
As many Torontonians know, driving on the Gardiner can already be slow. And heavy daily use is part of what's making this new round of construction necessary. This work is part 2 of a 6-phase plan to rehabilitate the expressway. This segment of the project will see an elevated portion between Dufferin Street and Strawn Avenue replaced. The plan has been long in the works. It was first approved by council nearly a decade ago. The rehabilitation was expected to be completed by 2030, but the city now can't say for sure if that deadline will be hit. The province recently agreed to pick up the tab for the Gardiner and its maintenance, but when asked Monday night whether that would include this rehab work, the mayor's office directed us to city staff. To soften the impact of the lane closures, Semiatiki says the city needs to be smart about how the project is carried out.
With the surrounding streets, they can try to tailor how the surrounding streets are going to work to give people alternatives, also making sure that public transit is really working.
The city says it will share more details about the lane closures soon. That will include a community meeting and public awareness campaign. Lane Harrison, CBC News, Toronto.
Another change for drivers, they will no longer be able to park on city streets for free during the holidays. Starting Family Day next week, Toronto Police will begin enforcing paid on-street parking on the 9 statutory holidays. The city controls and collects on-street parking rates and says the change is needed to deal with increased demand for parking, along with the ongoing need for more revenue. The mayor was in Scarborough today with the federal government to celebrate new funding for an affordable rental project. And while new polling shows the mayor's focus on housing is in line with the priority of most Torontonians, her high approval rating is starting to dip. Dale Manukduk has that story.
3, 2, 1. Whoa.
Shovels are finally in the ground at 25 Sewells Road in Malvern. In 2019, Brenyon Way Charitable Foundation bought the land intending to build rental units. It already manages 3 buildings and 100 townhomes built in the 1980s. But getting a new project off the ground nearly 4 decades later was challenging.
We're not a construction company. We're a nonprofit group that is developing affordable housing, so we naively thought that we could get this thing underway pretty quickly. We soon learned that there are a lot of hoops to jump through.
One of the hoops was funding, which the federal government and city has now stepped up to provide. All said and done, the project will have over 200 affordable rental units dedicated to women and children and people with disabilities. It's scheduled to be completed in the fall of 2026.
What's exciting about this project is this project has 1 bedroom, 2 bedrooms, even 3 bedrooms. You know how hard it is to find 3 bedrooms that are affordable?
Mayor Olivia Chow touting the affordable housing component in a new liaison poll that surveyed 875 residents on February 5th and 6th. Affordable housing was the top issue. Also in that poll is the mayor's approval rating, which after 6 steady months above 70% has dipped 16 points.
I want to make changes. I want to impact on people's lives where they have a place where they call home. As to my numbers, their numbers, I want to do what needs to be done to get the City of Toronto back on track.
Chow likely alluding to the tough decision of raising property tax 9.5%, which coincides with her slipping approval rating. Also a factor is Chow's perceived weakness on crime. For weeks, Chow and Toronto Police Chief Myron Demkew have engaged in a public debate over the police budget. The chief, who asked for a $20 million bump, says the mayor is cutting the budget and the force won't be able to appropriately serve Torontonians. However, the mayor's proposals include a $7.4 million increase for police.
If Chief Demkew is saying that they need an additional $12.6 million, I have every confidence in him and in that ask, and I certainly will be pushing for that on Wednesday.
That's when council will vote on the mayor's $17 billion operating budget. Dale Manukduk, CBC News, Toronto.
To Queen's Park, and a years-long battle over Bill 124 is now done. The Ford government is officially backing down after the province's top court found a law limiting wages for public sector workers to be unconstitutional. There will be no appeal of the decision, and the law will soon be repealed. It's seen as a big win for unions who have been fighting the province on this legislation. Queen's Park reporter Lorenda Redekop has the story.
Ford government's unjust.
Unions see it as a big victory. They first challenged the government in court on Bill 124.
So they've gained absolutely nothing in this process. That's been upheld now by 2 courts.
Bill 124 has got to go.
The bill was unpopular with many unions, limiting wage increases to a maximum 1% a year for 3 years, affecting hundreds of thousands of workers, including teachers, nurses, and other healthcare workers. Today, the Court of Appeal agreed with a 2022 decision that the bill takes away their right to collective bargaining. So many unions were involved in this case, it takes the first 7 pages of the ruling just listing them off. Today, labor groups determined and emboldened, even if the government decides to appeal again.
We will take it all the way to the Supreme Court, but on the way, we will make their lives hell, right? Because that is what they have done to frontline workers in every single sector of this province.
The opposition leader had a message for the Premier.
Respect the court's decision. Drop this appeal, back off workers, pay them fairly.
Some workers already had retroactive pay increases for Bill 124, but only those who had a special clause in their contracts and have gone through arbitration. The union leaders want everyone receiving the extra money, with the government on the hook for it, not employers.
We're going to take, all no-hold-barred approach. We're going to ask employers, frankly, to join us in advocating to the provincial government.
This isn't a complete win for all workers under Bill 124. The ruling makes clear this is only for unionized workers. This also wasn't a unanimous decision. 1 out of the 3 judges sided with the government.
Late in the day, the province responded, saying it will not appeal to the Supreme Court. Already a year ago, the Premier had said the bill was no longer an issue for workers.
Bill 124 is gone. Bill 124 is lapsed.
Soon it will officially be gone. The province saying it will repeal it in the coming weeks and also urgently introduce regulations to exempt non-unionized workers. How much has this legal fight cost taxpayers? Earlier, the finance minister didn't have an answer for how much the province has spent. Lorenda Redekop, CBC News, Toronto.
All right, now I want to show you a live look of the city if we have it. I think we do not have it, unfortunately, but the city is looking at 1 degree right now under clear skies, and Victor Paolo is tracking the weather forecast for us. Victor, tonight we seem much more in line with seasonal weather than we've been dealing with, especially last week.
Another beautiful day here in the GTA. Now we do have the return of winter, which will be slowly but surely heading our way. We have some chilly nights and a chilly morning in store. And we also have some mixed precipitation, which will be happening tomorrow. But looking at some average highs and average lows, well, minus 1.6 is your average high for today and minus 10.1 is your average low. And taking a look at what exactly be coming our way when it comes to that mixed precipitation tomorrow, well, as you do notice here, as we get closer to noon, you'll see a lot of the blue and a lot of the pink, which has washed its way through. And later on towards your Tuesday into Wednesday, things start to clear up. Now, the reason that we're going to be experiencing a lot of that mixed precipitation, well, we're going to be really close to that 0 degree mark. As you see, overnight tonight is going to be -3, and the afternoon is expected to be a high of 3 degrees tomorrow. But in between that transition, if it stays cold, we'll get some snow. But if it stays warm, a little bit of scattered showers. Make sure to stay tuned to Chris and I for the rest of your weather for.
Welcome back. A pair of charities in Peel Region say housing availability for international students has reached a crisis point. The groups, which help students from around the world get settled in our region, say they simply can't keep up with the demand. Now they're turning to the government, saying it's their turn to step in and support those students. Tyler Cheese has the story.
According to CALSA Aid's national director, there are almost 500,000 international students currently living in the GTA. And he says many, if not most, are struggling.
I think this time last year, if we just focus on the Brampton area, we were getting maybe 1 to 5 calls a week on a number of issues. And now we're getting 1 to 5 a day.
CALSA Aid helps international students in need of food, clothing, and a place to live. But Singh says charities in the region are under strain and taking on an unfair share of the load. That's why he and others are calling on the government to be more active in providing housing and other support services.
There's absolutely no wraparound services for these students. They're left to fend for themselves.
I think a time has come that all governments come together to create some solutions.
Advocates say the biggest problem international students face is, unsurprisingly, affordable housing.
It's really difficult because the same things that domestic students face when it comes to unaffordability.
And it often leads to less than ideal and sometimes precarious living conditions.
My own colleague, he actually lived in a home with 15 other students, and it was a 7-bedroom home.
I know a lot of international students living in the harsh environments, and they're not very happy. Their mental health is not good.
Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada has introduced recent changes, including capping study permits to help address the problem. But experts warn that a cap could have negative impacts.
Quote from the federal government last spring, they said that the international students contribute $22.3 billion per year to the Canadian economy. So we are saying that we'll put cap on the people who are bringing all this money into this country.
Instead, she agrees that all levels of government need to come together to ensure international students are met with comprehensive support programs when they arrive in the country. Tyler Cheese, CBC News, Brampton.
Turning now to sports, and Leafs defenseman Morgan Rielly is expected to be disciplined tomorrow after a controversial hit late in the game on Saturday against the Ottawa Senators. Okay, so here's what happened. Sends forward Ridley Gregg scored an empty net goal to seal a 5-3 victory for his team. Rielly clearly taking exception to the way Gregg scored a slap shot on a breakaway. It resulted in Rielly cross-checking Gregg in the head, and it caused quite a stir about whether the act was justified.
I think the kid deserved it, but Rielly also deserves a suspension for it.
Like, if you cross someone in the back, like, I feel like there should be consequences because it's a dangerous hit. It could injure someone.
There is a point where it becomes inappropriate, and I think that was a little bit on the inappropriate side.
Morgan Riley has an in-person hearing Tuesday afternoon with the NHL's Department of Player Safety. An in-person hearing means there's a possibility the suspension could be more than 6 games. All right, and the weather starting to return to more seasonal hockey-like temperatures. Let's get back to Victa with the long-range forecast.
Taking a look at the map of North America here, well, one thing you can note when we're looking here at the West Coast, a lot of warmer temperatures, but I do take a bit of a step to the side here. You can see that a lot of this Arctic air mass here is slowly but surely working its way to where we're located in the GTA. Now, these colder temperatures, as we get later on in the week, you'll notice is going to move its way further down south. And by the time we get closer to Friday, well, we're going to be engulfed in that blue because it's going to be back to regular scheduled winter conditions, as you do see here. Now, taking a bit of a look at what else is going to be coming our way when it comes to the weather. Well, it's not going to be that windy, but one thing we can note about the wind is you can see earlier in the day, it was moving from the north, and those north winds are going to be a big contributing factor to why it will be much colder when it comes to your overnight tonight. Now, tomorrow around 12, you can notice we have a bit of precipitation which will be working its way past us, and that precipitation will be mixed. Now, if it stays cold, we're going to expect it to be more of the scattered flurries, but if it stays warm, then we're going to be expecting the scattered flurries to be more like scattered showers. Now, your Wednesday is going to be quite the clear day. There's going to be some sunshine involved. But here's a more closer look at exactly when all of that mixed precipitation will happen. As you do see around noon, it's going to last all the way through to about after supper. But the good news is by the time we get closer to Wednesday, things will start to clear up. Now, here's how much rainfall we're going to be expecting to accumulate between now and, let's say, halfway through your morning on Wednesday. Well, the good news is not that much rain is really expected to fall. Now, taking a quick look at your 3- and 5-day forecast, well, we're expecting the temperatures to slowly but surely start dropping, because by the time you get to Friday, as you can see here, we're going to be right in that perfect window of regular scheduled winter. So for those who are waiting for it, it's coming our way, and we also have some snow, which is coming on Thursday. Hope you all have a great night, Toronto. And over to you, Chris.
You too. Thank you, Victa. Now, call it the Taylor Swift effect. The numbers are in, and this year's ratings for the Super Bowl made it not only the most watched Super Bowl ever, but the most watched television program ever. More than 123 million people worldwide tuned into this year's event. The game, which went into overtime, was watched by 19 million people just here in Canada alone. That is over half of our country's population. The Kansas City Chiefs won the game, beating the San Francisco 49ers 25-22. Time now for a quick break for us. We'll be back in 3 minutes. Finally, tonight, a popular spot for live music and lots of artists is celebrating a milestone this month. The Drake Hotel is turning 20 years old, and it's set to give back this month with a series of activities and experiences. Talia Ricci sat down with the general manager to talk about the festivities and the importance of the space for the city.
Okay, so the Drake Hotel is a 51-room hotel located on Queen West in Toronto, and we've been open for 20 years this year. We were founded by our owner, Jeff Stober. He has a love and passion for art, culture, community, hospitality, food and beverage, music, so he wanted to funnel that all into this beautiful space that we have here.
And there's obviously so much more that happens here than just serving as a hotel. Can you tell me a bit about how this place contributes to the arts and culture in Toronto?
At the Drake Hotel, we're not only a hotel, we're not only a restaurant, we also have a late night program, we also have a live music venue in the underground, we also have rotating shows of various types of art that change seasonally that we're really proud of, and we work with local and international artists for those shows. Our community hub, it's really important to us that we're a part of our community, that our doors are open to people, and that we're fostering the arts and culture of the community. Whenever we have someone walking off the street and they say, I've never been here before, what is this place? I say, please just walk around, enjoy the spaces. That's what they're here for. That's what they're meant for. They're meant to be enjoyed and consumed and appreciated. So, you know, I encourage everyone just to come and walk around. No need to, obviously we'd love it if people book a room with us and they stay for lunch, but really come and enjoy our spaces because that's really what they're here for.
Tell me what's happening this month to celebrate the anniversary.
So we have many exciting things going on this month. Tomorrow we have our programming panel where we're going to have a group of former programmers as well as industry vets come in and talk about the state of the music industry, amazing past experiences and what they have learned and how the Drake supported them in their career. And then next Friday, Feb 23rd, we have our Queen West Throwback Party. So we're really excited about that. We are throwing it with a great friend of the Drake, Brendan Canning of Broken Social Scene. He is put together somewhat of a super band of all early 2000s Queen West indie bands who many of them had their first ever show here before we were even open in the underground.
And why is it so important that we take a moment to celebrate a milestone like this, especially at a time when, the arts had such difficult challenges during the pandemic and we're seeing spaces close down?
It's more important now more than ever for the Drake to support artists in the community because they have had such a tough run the past few years, as we are able to provide them with a physical, tangible space for them to show their art. And what that does is, breeds creativity and allows for these communities to come together. Every major international city has a strong arts culture, and that's because it brings with it like diversity of opinion, it breeds inclusion, it allows for people to feel safe in a space and express themselves freely, and all of that is really important to being a part of like a really vibrant city.
What is the future vision for the Drake? How do you want it to continue contributing to the arts in the city?
Without having the art component, the Drake wouldn't be what it is. We would just be, a regular hotel and restaurant. And I think, the reason people want to come to us is because we offer them this amazing experience to be able to experience art in a museum, non-stuffy. It's a very accessible way to experience art. And what that does is hopefully inspire many generations to come.
Just one of so many great spots in our city. And that's it for us tonight. Thanks for watching. I'll be back with you tomorrow night at 6 and 11. We'll see you then.